Welcome thee to ye old epic fails of history. I am thy host. Follow with me through an era full of coil and superstition, at which our feudal kingdoms clashed over petty family squabbles. A time when lowly peasants are mere property to thy lord, and education was pondered as lacking valor. Your thither once hath lived the... Okay, you know what? Screw this old English bullshit. What I'm trying to say is that the Dark Ages sucked. Like, really sucked. Especially for us common folk. Feudal society was practically based on institutional slavery. Education was non-existent, and there was literally crap everywhere. Seriously, most eras of human history have some form of progress, but medieval Europe was practically the exception to the rule. The medieval era of Europe, or the Middle Ages, is a period of time stretching roughly from the 5th to the 16th century or so. It was an unprecedented age of darkness that swept across the lands. A time ruled by feudal monarchies, fueled by fear and ignorance. Kings clashed over vague territorial claims, Vikings plundered, women were subjugated, philosophers were burned at the stake, the Black Plague wiped out about half of the population of the human race, and nearly everyone hoped the end of the world was right around the corner. But none had it worse than the smelly peasants. This entire mess was actually a direct result of the collapse of the Roman Empire, leaving a power vacuum in its stead. See previous episode.
Sir William White, the Science Knight, present Medical Miracles!
Thank you. Last week we proved that the Earth is flat, and debunked Galileo's preposterously crackpot theory of a sun-centered universe. This time, we're taking a look at some of the most amazing treatments of modern medicine. These are but a few of ye cutting-edge advancements in the field of homeopathic sorcery. Backache? Try a spoonful of thine urine. Asthma? Nothing a little bloodletting couldn't cure. Common cold? Here's a random mixture of potentially lethal chemicals. Gout keeping thou up at night? Take one owl, roast it with rocks, pound it, smother it with bull's grease, and then slather that gooey remains over your nasty business. Sore throat? I have just the thing. Anoint thyself with a well-flayed fat black cat, doused in the guts of a hedgehog, and thoroughly buttered with the fat of a bear. The hint of honeysuckle mixed with virgin wax should do the trick. Constipation? Make sure to talk to your local apothecary about your annual bull's bile enema. Hemorrhoids acting up? Monks recommend a hot iron up the anus. Ooh. Blurry vision? How about a thick needle to the eye? Migraines? Check with your doctor to find out if a lobotomy is right for you. Broken bone? Visit your barbershop for an all-natural, anesthetic-free limb removal. If all else fails, the healing touch of your monarch might avail your maladies. Well, if you're pure of heart and not affected by a witch's curse. And just remember, bathing is unhygienic and will undoubtedly expose your soul to demons.
Next week, is your wife a witch? 5 foolproof tests to find out the truth. Next time on Sir William White, the Science Knight.
Hey guys, it's me, Devin, again, your time-traveling correspondent. I'm here reporting from Europe, 13th century AD. My attempts to get a quote from the local peasants has unfortunately resulted in my subsequent imprisonment, because I'm now going to stand trial and probably get hung for being a witch. I'm told I'm to be burned at the stake prior to burning alive in hell for all eternity, or something along those lines. Anywho, while I'm sitting here in this dank dungeon, I might as well take some time to explain to you guys some of the things I found out in this godforsaken, hellish millennium. Ivan the Terrible. Now, you don't get a name like that being necessarily Mr. Nice Guy. You get that by being mustache-twirlingly evil. And Ivan Vasilievich Grozny would certainly fit the bill. Ivan was a genius, Lex Luthor level, only matched by his insanity. The grandson of Ivan the Great, he became Grand Prince of all of Russia at the ripe old age of 3. His parents gone, he was raised by a council of nobles more concerned with fighting over power. Thus, the child's upbringing rivaled that of a George R.R. Martin novel. He was crowned Tsar at the good old age of 16. You know, we all make our best life decisions. He had the St. Basil's Cathedral built, which was said to be of such beauty that he had the architects blinded, such that they could never make something to rival its splendor again. After nearly dying of illness in 1553, Ivan was prescribed mercury by his doctors, causing his madness to spike to Lovecraftian levels. After this, he blamed his late wife's death on conspiring nobles, and he packed his duffel bags, abdicated, and left in the dead of winter. The people, noticing the power vacuum, panicked and begged for the return of the Tsar. Eventually, he relented on the one condition that he be granted absolute power over all of Russia. Everybody immediately agreed, and then immediately regretted agreeing. Ivan created a private police force called the Opratina. They carried literal dog heads, or actual dogs, severed dog heads, to sniff out traitors, and a broom to sweep them away. In 1570, Ivan got all paranoid and suspected the entire city of Novgorod of treason, and had his police slaughter the citizens, all of them. Further insanity and binge drinking led to him beating his daughter-in-law into a miscarriage. His son fought him on it, and Ivan murdered him, just on the spot. Feeling death approach, Ivan reached out to witches and prophets alike, as well as chugging keg-stand amounts of mercury. Eventually, he bought it during a chess game with an old friend. Vlad the Impaler. Vlad Tepes was born to Vlad II, who had joined the secret Christian Order of the Dragon, a sect created to protect the church from the invading Ottoman Turks. Vlad, as a part of a truce between the Turks and Wallachia, the kingdom that his father hailed from and was the ruler of, was sent with his brother Radu to live at the Sultan's court. He spent his days being educated in the ways of horseback riding, literature, and warfare. He was a troublemaker and often got lashed for heinous shenanigans. In 1447, Vlad's father was assassinated by the Hungarian Hunyadi, and while his brother had converted to Islam and sworn loyalty to the Sultan, Vlad swore an oath of mighty, mighty vengeance. Soon after assuming the Wallachian throne, he had to team up with Hunyadi in order to oppose Mehmed the Conqueror, the guy who changed Constantinople to Istanbul. During this time, he took back his throne after being thrown out again, in a duel ending with his opponent's beheading. During the celebratory feast for his return, he called for a toast for all the nobles who stood idly by when he was thrown out. He then had them all arrested and either executed or worked to death on building his really spooky, creepy, cliffside castle overlooking a lake. After this, Vlad's punishment for any crime, no matter how minor, was excruciating torture and death. His favorite method being his namesake, impalement. Anus first, on 10-foot pikes. That wasn't a pleasant way to go. He would literally decorate his castles with severed heads and line the perimeters with bodies so everyone knew that he was not to be fucked with. He skinned people alive and roasted them and then put them on display. He would hold feasts amongst the bodies of the dead, and he would even drink goblets of their blood, which of course led to legends of vampirism, which eventually gave us today Bram Stoker's Dracula. Best of all, as a symbol of his dedication to the people, he set out to eliminate poverty in his lands. So he gathered up all the homeless people at a banquet, locked them in, and set the building on fire, declaring, "No one will be poor in my land." King John was simply a case of ineptitude, cruelty, and being in the wrong place at the wrong time. John's older brother, Richard the Lionheart, left England on a whim one day to join the Third Crusade, and he left a council in charge. During this time, John was nicknamed Lackland because, well, he lacked land. He didn't didn't have anything. Richard was eventually done in by an infection from an arrow, shot by a boy seeking revenge for his family, to which Richard gave props for him being hardcore. After inheriting the throne, John proved to be quite a bastard, locking criminals up to die of starvation, blinding prisoners with vinegar, and hanging people by their thumbs. He outrageously increased the fines for hunting deer and boar in the King's Forest, which was effectively all of England at the time. These laws also applied to chopping firewood and carrying a bow, things, required to live in such a time. And John wanted these debts paid ASAP, or he took your lands. These prompted a spike in Sherwood Forest outlaws, possibly creating the legends we now know today as Robin Hood. In 1208, the Pope threatened John with excommunication, which would effectively remove him of all of his power, divine right of kings and everything. Thus, John had to beg for forgiveness. King Philip of France also didn't give two shits about John, and attempted to reclaim English territories in mainland Europe. John, in response, marched an army into France and captured 200-plus barons and knights, 22 of whom died of starvation. Instead of helping him, these local nobles then threw him out afterwards. In 1215, the barons united and threatened to overthrow John if he didn't sign the Magna Carta, which everyone, including John, would have to follow. Unheard of at the time, the king would have to follow a law. Its 9th article stated that nobody should be subject to arbitrary arrest, detention, or exile, something considered a basic human right today. John, being between a rock and a hard place, and many, many, many pointy, stabby things, relented and had to sign. John, however, whined to the Pope about it and riots erupted. John butchered these uprisings and then just kind of died unceremoniously of dysentery one day. For real talk for a second, I would like to point out that as terrible of a tyrant as King John himself was, because of him, we have that basic right. It led to getting a fair trial. It led to you're innocent until proven guilty, and it's something that we have today. So in a weird way, we have him to thank for it.
One major breakthrough that came about during this horrifying time period was the discovery of explosives and projectile weaponry, sparking the unoriginally titled Age of Gunpowder. It all started when a bunch of Chinese alchemists accidentally blew themselves up. The discovery of gunpowder and subsequent invention of the fire stick, a primitive handgun manufactured in medieval China, eventually made its way to Europe, where people quickly set about creating the first cannon weaponry. These early cannons proved quite useful in siege warfare. Prior to their employment, the next best option of raising a fortified castle was catapulting tons of horse manure over the brick walls until a white flag was raised. What is there to learn from this dark age of war, ignorance, and disease? Perhaps it serves as a reminder of how close we came to extinction, and how far we've come since then. I personally think that this may have been a sign, a warning, to stop investing in better ways of killing one another, and start putting our faith and finances in science and medicine, preparing for the next inevitable worldwide epidemic that tries to make us history. Because when it comes down to it, all we have is each other. So why can't we all just get along? Then again, perhaps it was foreshadowing to our own perpetuated apocalypse, the self-fulfilling prophecy ensured by the fundamentalist of our modern world.
Be sure to subscribe to our channel. Click here for more videos on epic fails of history. If you have any comments or questions, hit us up in the comments below. And as always, check out epicfails.com for more.